What's good, Travel Hour family? We back again. Here we are, season 1, episode 3. Matt P and LaSara are on the line with me today. So super excited to have y'all on the line today. Just definitely go ahead and say what's up to the people though, y'all.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to episode 3. It's good to be here, fresh off work, but I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited about what we're going to talk about today.
Hey everyone. Thank you again, Joc and Matt, for having me on. Pretty excited to see what we'll be talking about during this episode podcast.
Definitely. So I'm super geeked about today. Like I'm super pumped. We have our first guest, and so I'm super excited about our guest we had today because Sarah, she's definitely doing some dope stuff in the travel lane, and so she's definitely one of those people I'm always like checking her Instagram. And she like, where Sarah at? What's she doing? What she got going on? And so you know, it's only befitting, right? Because we get so many questions all the time, MP. When we did the live earlier in the year, it was like people were asking a lot of different questions. But one of the biggest things that keeps coming back around is talking about how can I afford to travel, right?
Right,
And
right.
like look, we black. So growing up, it was like, you ride in the car and y'all done went to the store, everybody tired, and then you ride past little Burger King, McDonald's, you like, yo, mom, pops, what's up? Can you get some McDonald's? And what they gonna say?
You got McDonald's money?
Money.
And then you sit back there like, no. But at the end of the day, they still find a way to make it happen for you. And so I think that's kind of, what we're gonna talk about today, right? It's like, it's funny because now as an adult, right, people always ask, where are you going now? Or how you able to afford all these trips? And so today we just really gonna dive in and talk about.
I just tell them, touch your nose, you're being nosy. Don't worry about yourself. What that mean? Worry about yourself. But yes.
Yeah, definitely, counting people's pockets and stuff like that. But no, I think one of the biggest things, honestly, bro, and I think LaSara will also be able to add into this, is that like I don't think travel is expensive as a lot of people make it out to be. And there's definitely some ways that you can definitely travel on a budget and still have a good time.
For sure.
Yes.
So yeah, we'll definitely talk some more about that as well. But we want to talk about like what in the world is going on in the world today, right? There's just a lot that's been happening since the last time we come together, and things continue to change, right? You got COVID restrictions being lifted, and the world is really starting to open back up. We got the war going on, and of course, we want to figure out like what does that mean, right? And so, Russia is one of the biggest exporters of oil, and gas prices are high.
Very high. Like to the point like I'm ready for them to bring back working from home because we went back to campus to work. But gas, look, I'm over here paying $6.19 a gallon. It's too high.
Oh wow.
It's disrespectful. That's what it is.
Yeah, I thought it was bad for me. I paid, I filled up today. I spent about $78 to fill up my tank, and I drive a car and I drive an SUV. So it was about 503 for premium today, and it was crazy. How much is the gas where you at, LaSara?
I think it's like 4 something. It took about $59 to fill up last time. I refused for it to hit $60 because at that point I'm just gonna have to stay in the house.
Big facts. Well, rule of thumb, one of my colleagues told me this on a Zoom call the other day. They were like, look, don't start up that car because every time you start that car, you spend money. So she was like, every time you start that car, it's $150 gone quick because you done went to the store, you done bought something you ain't supposed to be buying, then you get back home and it's like, yeah, I don't really need this.
Yeah, no more Target trips.
And it's horrible though for me, like because I commute to work, right? I live in Long Beach and I work in Pasadena, which is about in between 30 and 40 miles, depending on which way the GPS takes me. But time wise, it could be from 50 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes. And so I think that's a long time for a car to be running. And that's just one way. So yeah, if you hiring for remote jobs, hit your boy up because I'm tired of driving my car. I'm tired of paying for gas. Let's say that.
Yeah, look, we're gonna be flying on helicopters like Kobe in a few, because these prices are crazy,
I'm about to go get me an electric car and charge that up in my garage at night.
That sounds nice.
They laughing at us right now. Like, oh, these jokers, they scrambling for grad. Well, we're not scrambling. let's set the record straight. But they got to pay these high gas prices while they just up there charging the car. You only got to charge like once a week.
Yeah, it's not just us for real. Like I know my cousin just posted a meme the other day. She's out in Germany and posted some meme regarding like public travel, like public transportation instead of having to drive. And I'm like, well, we don't even have that over here. Not as good as it is, in Europe. The public transportation, like the trains and the bus system is so much better. I'm like, yeah, I can't even repost this meme because it's just, yeah, it's really bad over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go in on South Florida about their public transportation because it's just non-existent. But like, I don't know how you build a train that only runs one direction. It don't make no sense at all. So it's cool. But we know these gas prices are high. Also, with that being said, the price of jet fuel is going up, and so that's going to affect the travel game. Because what we're looking at right now is that if you're going to be planning any summer trips, go ahead and start booking your flights now.
Definitely.
If you have a rental car, lock the rental in because there's been a shortage on vehicles, and of course, gas is going up. So if you can plan ahead, and by doing that, please make sure y'all do that. And then the other thing too, though, that you can do to kind of offset some of the things that you're doing, lock in alerts. So if you plan on going somewhere this summer, go ahead and set you up a flight alert, whether like Google Flights. Who else does it? Hopper,
Skyscanner.
You can also track through Google Flights tracking. Just log in and put in the route that you want to go through. So I've been using that a lot lately.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it definitely does help to save a couple dollars because I've been on the road the last 6 weeks, and so it was good to see like when's going to be the best time to book, especially with the holiday season approach. I know Memorial Day is coming, 4th of July is coming, and so if you plan on traveling during those peak times and stuff like that in the summer, it's going to pay dividends to make sure you get the best flight and book in advance. One of the other things you can do too as well, which I have actually started doing with longer flights, is splitting up the payments. So I know PayPal does like a pay in 4, and it's interest free for up to 6 months. I do use that. Is there anything else out there that you can split the payments up for, like Air?
There is, but we're gonna wait until the Wonder Tip of the week.
My bad.
Drop that gem.
Definitely do not want to steal your thunder, but yeah, I think the biggest thing, y'all, is just definitely making sure that as we're going into like one of the first summers of really just being outside, is that you really just prepare and plan ahead.
Facts. And I can attest, right? I was just telling Joc earlier today, like the flight that I bought maybe last month, which I paid a pretty penny too because I waited a little. I paid about $800 for the flight. I went just to kind of see what the prices were, and that flight is now over $2,000. So y'all, if y'all got these flights, y'all better go ahead and start locking in these flights, locking in, like Joc said, lock in all this stuff, because the earlier you do it, the less of a headache you'll have when it's time to go.
Definitely do not play the waiting game the way things are going right now. So like I use my credit cards as well if I can. It's like, hey, like I'm gonna just go ahead and book this on a credit card and get the points because I got to pay for the flight anyways. And so you definitely just want to make sure that you lock in. I know I've got a trip coming up to Cartagena, Colombia, and for Memorial Day weekend, and like I was hunting for like reasonable flights, so I had to buy 2 one-ways because the flights were just outrageous.
Yeah.
Ended up getting 2 pretty good deals, but I just ended up booking them on my credit card so I could lock the flights in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. It's definitely going to take proper planning now that, with all that's happening in the world, it's definitely going to take you being proactive and like locking stuff in early because it just made me shake my head how outrageous these prices are, right? Like, so we thought we was rejoicing because we're coming out of the pandemic, but we dang got punched in the chest with this, like, the cost of everything, like even the cost of food is going up. So like it's crazy. It's crazy. But shout out to California. They hopefully they do right by us. They're supposed to be like it's not, I don't want to say it's like a gas relief check that they're gonna send to all the residents of California. because the prices have gone so high.
Oh yeah, I've
So,
read about that. Lucky you.
so shout out to California. Shout out to Governor Newsom for looking out for us.
Look, he said he had to do something after he was able to keep his job after that runoff election.
Hello, they spent all that money. They wasted a lot of money on that, but we glad he's still there.
Definitely. Well, I think it's time to hop into it and start talking about traveling on a budget. What you think, Matt?
I think so. I think it's good. I think it's time to talk about it. But before we jump into it, we want to introduce our first guest on the Travel Hour. This is Travel Hour, the Travel Hour history. LaSara will go down as our first invited guest to participate on the podcast. But our guest today, as you have heard us say, is none other than LaSara. LaSara, we all met at Shaw University, and Joc and I wanted to be very intentional on bringing our guests in and having our first set of guests being graduates of Shaw University to show the world that Shaw University produces great people, and we're out here doing good things for ourselves, being successful, traveling the world, and having the time of our life. So today we have LaSara, who she lives in North Carolina, and she graduated, I said, from Shaw University. She is the founder of Grants for Stamps, and we're going to hear about that a little later on. And she is one who has traveled extensively, domestically and internationally. And so I don't want to bore you with a long bio. I'm going to let her kind of hop in and hit all the points that I missed, because there are a lot, because her resume is long. So I just want to bring on LaSara. LaSara, how are you doing today? Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you again for having me on. I feel really special being the first guest on the Travel Hour podcast. I truly feel honored. Again, thank you for having me. You pretty much covered it all. We met at Shaw University, which has, as we've seen, produced a lot of great graduates, a lot of great people, whether it's professionally or just in personal endeavors. So it does feel befitting to have a mini reunion on the podcast and talk about some of our passions, which is travel. And you mentioned Grants for Stamps Incorporated, which was founded a year ago. And not sure if Joc knew, but Matt is actually one of my board members. So we have been in the talks for the past few months, getting that all set up, making sure that we're on board legally, doing everything that we are supposed to be doing to get it running, and just supporting a good cause for the people and for the students. So just want to, I guess, give a little background of what Grants for Stamps actually is. It's a nonprofit that I founded with the goal of fundraising money for underrepresented students to be able to afford opportunities to study abroad. So one of the ways that we help raise funds and provide those funds for students is to provide a passport scholarship. So those who are interested in sponsoring, they can either send a little money here or there, or they can sponsor a full passport, which at the moment is like $165, because it went up recently, unfortunately. But having that passport is like that first step into studying abroad. So we kind of wanted to start off small and get the word out there that we exist, that this nonprofit is here. And it's been really great so far. And I have not been able to, I would say I wouldn't be able to do it without Matt's help in the past year. Reviewing applications. He's on my selection committee. We just had a board meeting the other week. So thank you so much for thinking of me to even bring me on to the podcast and talk about Grants for Stamps Incorporated.
Oh, awesome. Excellent.
Hold on. Let's stop right there, because what you're doing is so dope. I know Matt and I are both higher ed pros, and so working in higher education and understanding what access means to students of color, and especially Black students. A lot of times we don't have the opportunities because we simply don't have the access. And so at the end of the day, what you're doing is so dope, and it's only befitting that we bring you on during Women's History Month, because we know,
Yes.
the rich history, the rich history and the rich legacy that Shaw University has in producing trailblazing Black women, right? When I always go back to my girl Ella Baker, who always was pushing the envelope. She was the one that said, she's known the mother of the civil rights movement. She told Martin Luther King, she said, this movement just won't be about men, but it's actually going to include grassroots folks. It's going to include Black women. And so it's only befitting that the work you're doing out here be highlighted. So we on board, whatever we can do to help, definitely here for. But that is so dope. And I did see the Instagram post of the young lady's testimony. That was super dope.
Yes, I'm really excited. Our last recipient for the Passport Scholarship, she was just accepted into a study abroad program in Sweden for next year. So it's kind of rewarding to see the work that we've put in to get the scholarships out there for students. And this was a nationwide scholarship. Like, she goes to Trinity College in Massachusetts. So it was really cool to see the transformation of her receiving the Passport Scholarship and then applying for those study abroad programs and then being accepted into it. Just seeing it from start to finish is so rewarding, and it just makes me want to continue to go even harder to raise these funds, get the word out that there's a nonprofit out there that wants to give back to underrepresented students. Yeah.
That's dope. It's amazing. And we want y'all who are listening to consider sponsoring a passport. I know the Travel Hour, we're on board to sponsor a passport for a deserving college student. But if you are listening and you want to join in this effort of getting a passport for a college student, high school student, LaSara, can you give us the website where we can go and make that donation?
Yes. So our website is grantsforstamps.org. And then you'll see a donate button. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook. There are also links out there that will help you donate without having to pay additional fees that some of the other websites do. But if you have any troubles or any questions, send me a DM, a text, an email. Again, find us on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn. Just send us a message if you're interested in sponsoring a passport. It's greatly appreciated.
Definitely. Listen, we trying to get more people out and traveling, and I think it's very crucial and very pertinent that we catch them at that age of being in high school and in college, right? When I even look at my own experience, the reason why I have the love for travel that I have, because it started while I was a student in undergrad, right? Having the opportunity to participate in international internships, and also attending other student programs that were outside of the country. So I definitely think you're doing a dope thing.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see where it goes, right? It's only the beginning.
Too. You can only get bigger and better from here.
Right. And so, listen, if you're listening, go ahead and sponsor. Donate, sponsor a passport, and let's get some more Black students traveling around the world.
Yes.
These baby need some stamps. We're gonna get them some stamps, y'all.
Yes.
Speaking of stamps, before we go any further, I got a testimony, got a praise report. Ooh. Y'all know I have been waiting for. Let me start
your passport.
Wait a minute. Let me start off like we would back home and back in church. First, giving honor to the God who's the head of my life.
Yes.
To the pulpit and everybody else. I truly thank God for saving me. Listen, I've been waiting for this thing for so long. I had to renew it. And I told you, don't be like me. Don't be like me and wait to the last minute. But I'm glad to report that this passport came in last week. And now I can safely say that I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks. Listen, I'm excited. I'm just thankful that it came in. So
that thing crispy.
It's crispy. Yes, it's fresh too. It's fresh. You see that? It's fresh. Ain't no beans or nothing in it. But let's get into talking about today's title. You got travel money? Just like your parents would say, do you have McDonald's money? Let's get into that. I know I forgot to ask the question. I do want to kind of circle back to ask that before we get into the topic at hand. The question that I forgot to ask, And Joc, feel free to also chime in if you think of like another question that is attached to the question I'm about to ask. We want to know when and where, right, did you develop your love, and how? How did you develop your love for traveling?
Well, I would say from my background has a lot of influence on it. So I was born and raised in Germany by my German mom, but I came to the States every summer to visit my dad's side of the family, and I eventually settled down at the age of 10 here in the U.S. So I think going back and forth, I always had that love for airplanes, and that was my form of travel. Um, I have been to a few other little countries before then or during that time when I was going back and forth. Like I've been to Denmark, I've been to an island off of Spain. So I always kind of had that. I feel like I was kind of born into that lifestyle um, based off of just having to do it, having to travel by plane just to see my dad. But getting that additional passion for it really came about probably right after I graduated from undergrad. It's a rewarding gift that's not as materialistic or as tangible as anything else that you can buy or obtain. Making memories, that really was just something that had stuck to me every time that I travel. Just going back and looking at pictures and just thinking of all the memories, or looking at your Snapchat memories back in the day, and just seeing the joy that traveling always brought me, whether it's meeting new people, trying new cuisines, learning about cultures, learning fun facts here and there. It kind of grew my passion for travel that was already inherited in me. And that's when I started to really hit the gears and start to seek out more traveling, hitting more countries, hitting up more cities in the States. So I would say, yeah, around my young adulthood is when it really grew.
Got you, and that's a dope experience that you're highlighting because essentially, like you grew up in Europe, and then you come to the States, I guess as a teenager, but then you
Mhm.
end up going to a HBCU, right? So like you've been in like a lot of different spaces, different countries,
Mhm.
in different environments. Like, what have you learned from just having all those different like experiences?
I've learned you learn how to communicate better with people, especially with people who come from different backgrounds. So that's something that I've always been able to, I feel like, been able to be good at learning how to adapt, learning how to communicate, learning how to listen and understand that everyone is not the same, not every culture is the same. So that kind of translated into my travels, the way I grew up, and now me traveling to foreign countries that have nothing to do with my background or none of my past experiences. It kind of helps you to better understand the love of travel and your purpose for why you're traveling in the first place.
Dope.
Yeah, that's super dope. And I will highlight this. Like one thing I respect about what you do, because I always tell people this is like, when I go on a trip, like I'm gonna turn up, I'm gonna have a turn up. I'm gonna get some culture though.
Yeah,
And then also, what I'm saying, like I'm gonna leave the place better than what I found it. So I always try to do something wherever I'm at, right?
exactly.
And so with that being said, it's like you always are like dropping knowledge when you go to different places, right? So I'm like when I see your story on Instagram, it's like, okay, did you know this? Or like I do play those. I be wrong half the time. Like,
Yeah, so
what does that look like
I
in the culture? Yep.
Yeah, so I try to learn fun facts here and there wherever I'm going to. Some of them might be way too obvious, and some of them might be just a little hidden fun fact that I like to share because I like to learn. So I figure everyone likes to learn as well as much as I do. So I just try to, get a little something out of it and make people seem like they're with me wherever I am. Like, hey, like I'm eating this, but did you know that this food comes from or was influenced by this culture or this country? Just little tidbits here and there to include whoever's watching or to come back with some more stories like, hey, like I learned this while I was on my trip. It's always fun for me.
Oh,
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Uh, so as we talk about travel, you got any exciting trips coming up that you want to share with us?
Oh yeah, actually in 2 days I am going to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Um,
Check you out.
yes, I'm packing right now. I'm in the midst of it, getting all of my fits together. You know, still have to be fly even when you're trying to learn in a different country. But yeah, I'll be out in Rio for 5 days. Have a lot on my itinerary, but I'm ready.
Are you going to do the picture with the cliff hanging picture?
Yes, you know it.
Yeah.
I think it's like an hour long or 2 hour long hike, but I'm ready. I've actually been preparing for it. That's another thing. Instead of thinking about having to get all the right fits and making sure your hair, nails done, and everything else, you got to think about the other things, like the activity that you need to be prepared for. If you have a trip coming up that requires a hour to 2 hour long hike, guess what? Maybe you need to build up your stamina. So for the past few months, actually, I've been trying to work out. I've had the treadmill on the incline. You know, I'm trying to really prepare for this hike, for this cliff. So yes, those shots are coming. Not sure
Yo,
what pose I'm gonna do, but guess what? I'm gonna be ready for that hike.
listen, that's a great point you bring up because
Definitely is.
you don't want to be that friend. I remember we went skiing and we I've never been skiing before. We like, all right, let's go to MLK ski weekend in Toronto, right? Cool, great idea. We ain't never been skiing. So we gotta buy all this gear. The altitude's different up there, it's
Mhm.
cold. And so we get out there and like skiing is hard as hell. Like it's a hard sport to learn and it is hard on the body. And so we had
It
one
is.
friend, we were going through a little training course, and it's like 5 levels. Our one friend, they got to level, they didn't even get to level 1, and they fell over and rolled down the hill, and they was done for the day.
They didn't do the pizza. They went fries all the way down.
They look,
They
they
didn't go all the way down. We was still learning how to stop.
You gotta pizza it. You gotta pizza your skis together.
yeah, that we were actually like trying to walk up the hill to go down a little baby hill to learn how to do that, and they
Mhm.
took a Humpty Dumpty down the hill, and we looked over. I'm like, "Where you at?" So they got snow all in their mouth. I'm calling the Uber. I'm going home. I'm like, "All right, we'll catch you
Yeah.
later." But yeah, you definitely want to prepare.
Yes, mentally, physically, just try to prepare for what activities you have planned on your trip.
Yeah, definitely. And I can attest, because that's something that I, especially, being a guy of a larger stature, sometimes walking longer distances. We can walk, but sometimes when they long can sometimes be a little harder. But every time I know that I'm going on a trip, I try to get into the gym and just like do some type of cardio every day to get me ready and
Mhm.
normally work out, right? And I'm thankful. So I'm looking forward to. I know Greece got a lot of steps,
Oh,
so
yes, I've seen that.
I've been trying to prepare myself for
Get on
that.
the Stairmaster.
Listen, you ain't
Yeah,
gonna have me out there having a heart attack. I'm not gonna be embarrassed because that's one thing I don't like to be is embarrassed.
yeah, and I think that's because like, look, one thing I'm not walking in jeans. So like, we going out and I got jeans on, like I'm not doing a lot of walking. So like, the Uber better get us to where we need to go, or else I'm gonna call another Uber. So you all gotta, for real, because you gotta
That
like, it's uncomfortable walking in jeans. Like,
that's similar to us girls. We have to prepare like, okay, is this a heel type of day or heel type of night? Or can I just throw on like some sneakers or some flats, some sandals? Like, gotta be prepared.
Gotta be prepared. Better safe than sorry, right? Um, so when we talk about traveling, right? And traveling on a budget. So let's just use, for instance, I know you had like a birthday trip a couple of months back in Arizona with a
Mhm.
group of friends. And can you just kind of walk us through that process of how you planned this and how you made it as economical as economically sufficient. I think that's the right word, whatever, as possible.
Okay, well, I've
Economical is the
been
word I'm looking for. There you go.
well, I have been planning for that trip for a whole year. My trip was in October. I had my flight and the itinerary ready by end of March, April of that
Mhm.
year. So I will first try to get everything planned out as early as possible. So this was also my first group trip, meaning I'm responsible for other people. So that was stressful, but I wanted to make sure everything was in tip-top shape, everything was planned out perfect to the T. So also having more people on board with you, you also have to work with different budgets, different activities that everyone wants to do. So it was a bit stressful, but my group, they were wonderful. Like, we had a ball and they want to do it again. Like, they are looking forward to the next trip already because they had so much fun. But I'm like, yeah, because a lot of planning went into that. So I would say first, get a pretty big head start on whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's for a birthday. It's a little easier to plan for that because your birthday is coming. So if you already have something in mind, it's better to plan around that, and everyone else probably is aware as well. But as soon as you have that thought in your mind of, okay, well, I'm thinking about maybe hitting up the MLK ski week, in Canada, which I didn't get an invite for, but
2023, we in
yes,
there.
thank you. We there. If you already know, well, this is going to be MLK weekend, so you already know, you have your dates. You already know the temperature, so you can better plan for that. You know that a lot of people will probably be going, since it's MLK weekend, and it looks like it's a good turnout every year. Like, I've been following that event as well, so you're gonna think, okay, well, it's a pretty big event, meaning prices are probably gonna surge. I should get my flight, and it's an international flight, so I should get my flight, well in advance, to 6 months in advance, I would say, at least. For domestic flights, I think the good rule of thumb is at least 3 to 2 months in advance. Not sure, all of these articles out here, they think they have the sweet spot. Like, I think one article said like 57 days exactly that you should get your domestic flight in advance. So just my first rule is just get everything in advance. If you already have the thought for it, you need to go ahead and put it down in writing, book it. If it's something that can be canceled later on, just go ahead and book it now. If you're thinking about hitting up, a certain restaurant for dinner, go ahead and reserve it now. You can always cancel it within 24 hours. You just want to make sure you have it all in place. Whatever it is you can, whatever is flexible enough to move around, just go ahead and start with that. So I would just say, timing wise, is the most important to plan a trip efficiently. You save so much money down the road versus then waiting to the last minute. Some of my girls, I think, waited to like probably the last month. They didn't share it with me, but I assure you, I know that some of them waited to the last month to get their flight. Oh yeah, I got you. I'm gonna get my flight. Hold on. I'm gonna get it next month. I'm gonna get it when I get paid next week. Which is all fine, but they probably saw that me getting my flight in April for a trip in October was very beneficial, because I probably got the cheapest flight out of all 9 of us for doing that. So I would just say, get everything in advance. If it's something that you can change around, if you can get some credits, which is not as feasible as getting your money back, but just getting everything set in stone early on, because you save so much money down the road. And I think you guys talked about it earlier with the gas prices surging. Like, it's getting ridiculous out here. And it's not even the gas prices is not the only factor in the flights going up. There are a lot of pilots out here that are protesting because these airlines, they can't hire enough employees, enough pilots, enough flight attendants, gate agents. Like, this summer really is about to be crazy, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting expensive to travel with the summer, the world opening back up because COVID cases are going down, and it's getting easier to move about internationally. I can foresee it going up. So to that effect that Joc said earlier, please, y'all, get your flight now. If you plan on going somewhere for 4th of July weekend, at this point, if you don't have a flight, you don't need to be going at all.
You just need to take a road trip.
Unless you're ready to pay premium prices. That's what I tell everybody. It's like, you can still go, but are you willing to pay the price?
That's not my specialty right there.
Listen, Nah, but I think you also hit on a good point, right? I know we're going to talk about this in another episode, but knowing who your friends are, right? When you do plan like these group trips and for
Mhm.
budget travel purposes, because you know what friend can handle what, and you know how early another friend might need to know something in advance. And I
Yeah.
think that all works together when you're traveling, trying to travel on a budget, right? We know some things
Mhm.
will happen, or may happen while you're on the trip, but there's a lot of ways that you can kind of cut costs when it comes to traveling, right? And I think it's just like I think it all boils down to like what you said, LaSara, is planning, preparation. And I know
Mhm.
LaSara's like a very type A person. I know she posted like the itinerary of her trip
Yes.
on Instagram, and it had everything like wake up, take showers, this, that, the third, like take your nap, everything lined out and mapped out, right? And I think that too, though, comes in handy, though, right? Some
We need
people
more people
need
like that in the
that.
world. I'm with you,
Yeah,
there, because
I'm
I'm
not
type
that.
A. See, I got an itinerary. Like we went on a trip. Me and some of the homies went on a trip, and it was like, oh, I got the itinerary. I got all the forms you need to fill out for the international flight. I got what time, what events we're doing, the links so you can go ahead and pay
Mhm.
for it. Because one thing we not gonna do, what you're not gonna do, is we gonna get over overseas and you talking about some what we about to do.
Yeah.
We
No.
we
Well,
Mm-mm.
ain't
in
about to
that
do that.
sense, I'm there with you. Like
Nah,
I'm,
we not.
I'm like that too.
Don't get over to ask me like what we doing. No, we going, because what people don't realize, I think you bring up a great point, Sarah, is that by having that itinerary in place, you have a concrete plan. And if you feel
Yeah.
like you want to eliminate something because there's too much going on, you still
Mhm.
have the luxury to do so. But you can't just add stuff
Yes.
last minute.
Right. And even though like I have the itinerary in place, it's just a guide for real. Like
Mhm.
I know I might have it all the way down to the T of when we're going to shower, when can we fit in a nap, but it's all optional unless there's like a reservation that we really have to stick to. But like I said earlier, a lot of things can get canceled, moved about. Now like activities and tours is a little different, but most of the things on my itinerary, it's all just a guide. Like at least we have something in place instead of just going into it blindly. Like we can always deviate if needed. If we just happen to be walking around and see a nice little spot to hang out or grab a bite from there versus the the whatever star restaurant down the street that's on our itinerary, we can just hit up this local spot right here if you guys are up for it, you know. But it's just always good to have something in place so you're not stuck with, yeah, where we about to eat at? Well, I wanted to go here, but they all booked up. No, that's not gonna happen on my trip.
Facts, and I think that's super dope. Can you like talk a little bit about like, because I know you're going to Rio, you got a bunch of stuff planned, but like talk to us how like what do you go through as far as like researching and then putting the itinerary together.
Yeah, so I always try to work first the activities like tours, you know, if you have like maybe a cruise or a boat that you want to get on, if you want to see a certain landmark, try to book around that first because that's really why you're there. I try to stress those more and then work the restaurants and the meals around that. It's a little easier to work, you know, whenever you're going to have lunch and dinner or afternoon coffee. Around your scheduled tours. It's a little bit easier. So I try to start with the heavier lift first, seeing what works better for what day, what kind of timing do they have on certain days. Is it better to hit up the beach club on a Sunday or on a Saturday? Like which one is going to be more popping? Doing research like that really helps kind of narrow it down a little bit and just go day by day. You know, I don't like to try to attack it all at once. Like I think I just said it earlier to someone, like just take it day by day. Like when
Mhm.
you're even planning your outfits, just look at the itinerary and see, okay, well, we're gonna do this first and then probably this later on. Cause it can get a little overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, I want to do all of this. Like I will say I do start off with a list of things that I might have jotted down before. Maybe I saved an Instagram post like months ago and was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to hit up this spot or yeah, I want to try this food out. But getting it down onto an itinerary, just start with the heavy lift and then try to incorporate all the little stuff around it. But just, yeah, just go little by little.
I agree. I agree with that, and I'm all on board. I think I use a similar approach. And one thing I've learned, I'm 30 plus now. So if you're ever on a group trip with me, the first day is a travel day. We just flying in, checking in, and we might
Mhm.
get something to eat together. But I'm not planning nothing on that day I'm flying. Ain't gonna happen with me. I done learned my lesson.
Yeah, you never know when a flight might get delayed and you done got a $300 tour booked on that same day, and now you're getting in
Right.
later. That's a good point. Good advice right there.
You also want to give your time to like adjust to all this traveling you just put it through, right? Going through
Mhm.
different time zones, especially if you travel internationally and you have to do like a flight that's like longer than 5 hours, right? You got to give yourself time. And also depends how much time you got to spend in that particular city. If it's a city that you're passing through, we might have to kind of fork over the rules just a little bit. But I definitely am right there with Jock. Like, listen, that first day, we just trying to learn the law of the land, right? The lay of the land.
Mhm.
We trying to rest from sitting upright for X amount of hours, let our knees stretch out, and enjoy the first day. Yeah.
Yes. Get acclimated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think in that location is key. That's when we talk about location, I like to say I'm an Airbnb whisperer, so I'm gonna find a good neighborhood and a good Airbnb to stay in. And I think that's super important. Because then it's like, hey, we don't have to Uber to go here, right? Or like we can get like here 15 minutes from our Airbnb to most of the attractions we're trying to see, right? LaSara, are you more a person that are you booking your flight first or are you booking like lodging first? Like which one and what order do you use?
Flight. I would say flight first. Yeah. I think that one is more important and it's more concrete because your flight is you I think you got like what 24 hours and that you can cancel it without being penalized for it or something. I don't know. But that's a more concrete thing. So if you have your flight, like especially if I'm going on a group trip, that's like the first thing that I would probably require from everyone before we even think about getting a hotel or Airbnb. We can think about it, but we're not going to book it yet because we have no guarantee that you're even coming or that I'm even coming because you don't have your flight yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one is number one. How about y'all?
I'm right there with you. Book that flight first. Yeah, book that flight first. I mean, like you
Mhm.
said with the hotel, like that can be canceled, right? Don't be like me, but this is my little travel
Hmm.
hack that I do. Like we go get a new debit card and they give you a temporary one, but when they send a new one, I keep the old one and I use that to make all my reservations. That way, if I do need to cancel it and I'm not inside the window of canceling,
Mhm.
it's not charging my card.
Mm.
But
Okay. Okay.
Bank of America gonna come find you, man.
nah.
I definitely think like the majority of the time I'm booking the flight first.
Mhm.
Honestly, like the flight. So I like sit up here and look for cheap flights anyway. So if I find like a decent flight, it's like, all right, I'm going. But it's been like some trips that I've been invited on where it's like, hey, like we're going here. And so they may be in the process of like selecting lodging. And so that may be like a situation where, okay, like I'm gonna book lodging and I'm gonna figure out a flight because I have enough experience to find like the best flight that's gonna work for me. And if all
Hmm.
else fails, like I'll use my points with the different airlines, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely think like when you're traveling with a group, it can get tricky because I think I've been in a position where it's like you're waiting on folks to book flights, and then you like, well, before we move on from this, we don't want to book the Airbnb until we know who solidified flights. And so I've had to learn the hard way. And I think the rule of thumb for me has been to just start booking things, and they'll catch up. And so that's kind of how I operate. But LaSara, what about you?
So I haven't been on like many group trips or of that large. Like I think my last one was my birthday and it was 9 of us. So I can't really speak too much on that, but I have seen cases where it's like a large group and maybe the host already got the Airbnb and the hotel. They're just collecting money as it comes in. And So that might be in place first, and then they're just all getting their flights separately later on. So I have seen cases like that. I just prefer to get my flight first. Like, I wouldn't really, if somebody were to invite me, I wouldn't necessarily like agree to come or let them know that I'm coming until I got my flight. Because then what if I paid down, like we all split the Airbnb equally or the hotel equally, and now I can't make it for some reason because I don't have my flight. So it's like, oh yeah, I can pull out, I don't even have my flight yet. And now that affects the group's hotel already because everybody had already divided it up, by 10 people, but now they're missing one person. So I can see where it can cause some kind of issues down the road. But I just try to get my flight first. That way, I'm coming. That way, you're getting my money to go towards the hotel or whatever else.
Okay, I like that. So as we continue to talk about budget travel, I think there's also some other things that we can kind of look at too, uh, as it relates to kind of um, saving some money while you're traveling, right? And so I was looking at this article and it was giving us like 25 reasons or 25 tips on budget travel. And I like one of the things that it said. It was one of the things it said walk everywhere, right? Because we know Ubers and stuff can add up. If you're in a walkable city, a walkable town, try walking instead of uh, Uber or anything, or looking to using the public transportation. If the city, if the city, the country, wherever you're visiting, has a great public transportation system, definitely like invest in you or try it, use it, because it'll be beneficial.
Shout out to Toronto. Shout out to the Six.
Yeah, shout out to they definitely got us to the hotel effortlessly. Um, I will also say I'm looking forward to the public transportation in Amsterdam because that is going to be like €4 to get from the airport to the hotel instead of trying to book like transportation or get an Uber or something like that. So
now it might be cheaper, but it's funny that you mentioned the transportation in Amsterdam because that actually was my least favorite thing about Amsterdam because as soon as I touched down from the Euro train or whatever like the major train was, as soon as I touched down to get to the hotel, I think I wasted like 2 hours trying to figure out their system. Coming from Paris with their metro, seamless. It was seamless. I loved it. And it works, with your iPhone maps. But Amsterdam's public transportation, their tram system or whatever else, I hated it. That was the only thing I hated about Amsterdam. So it's funny that you mentioned that. But if it is $4 or €4, I might give it another go if I ever make it back.
And ours is a direct, like it's like get on a train and go straight to Central City or to Amsterdam Central. And from there, our hotel is right there. So it's not as tedious, I would say. But
hopefully I didn't scare you with my experience, but I don't know what it was, but it just was not my day to travel in Amsterdam.
Hey, we're up for the challenge. Another thing would be if you want to save money, pack well. So let's say, are you somebody who takes a carry-on only, or you do a carry-on and a checked luggage?
Oh, now this is my specialty. Yes. So last year I traveled domestically, like I went somewhere every month, I think, in the US. And the way I was able to do that was flying on a budget airline. Now, a lot of people hate Spirit and Frontier. You see the memes about Spirit Airlines on social media. But to my experience, and I might have to knock on wood, but I haven't had any problems. And that was the main way that I was able to travel and save money was traveling with Spirit or Frontier and not checking any bags, meaning I'm just flying with my backpack. That's the free personal item. So you have to learn how to pack efficiently. It has been a struggle and I learned with each trip, but when your main goal is to save money and you just want to get from point A to point B, I mean, don't knock it till you try it. I have never had a bad experience flying Spirit. I think I'm like the two extremes. I'm either flying Spirit or I'm on Delta. It's one or the other, like no in between. But I would say, just if you can do it, if you don't mind just carrying a backpack, if you don't mind for the airline to pick your seat for you and you don't care about boarding or any of that, if it's only an hour flight, come on. The cheapest flight I've been on, I think, was like $45 to Orlando. Mm-hmm. And that's only me traveling with my backpack. So if I can do it, and I'm a woman now, so we pack a lot already. But I was able to do it, and I'm still learning how to pack efficiently and better, so it's not breaking my back, because I think the last time I actually kind of pulled a muscle because my backpack was just so heavy. But it saved me a lot of money last year, and I was able to hit up new states, new cities, and everyone's like, how are you able to do it? I get on Spirit and I'm not ashamed.
Yeah. And you kind of realize too, though, right? Like when you start traveling, there's been plenty of times, like by the time that I've gotten to the end of my trip, there are several clothes that I did not wear.
Yes. Like, you're going to have 3 backup outfits. You need options for this and that. And
you got to learn how to mix and match. Like your jeans, just bring stuff that will go with your pants, your jeans, whatever. So that way you're not bringing a new set of jeans for every day.
Try to wear your bulkiest or heaviest clothes on the plane. Like I try to wear my sneakers if they're, kind of bulky, or wear all of my jackets, the heaviest, whatever. Wear it as you're flying. If it can't fit, you don't need it. And it definitely helps if you're going to a location that has warmer weather. That means you have lighter clothes, because you're only packing with like sandals and, T-shirts instead of a sweater. Because when I did travel to Denver, Colorado, it was with Frontier, which is another budget airline. So I think the flight was like $70 or $80. It was $80. But knowing that I had to pack ski clothes, heavy jackets, the what is it, the jumpsuit or the overalls, and the snowsuit, the goggles, the hats, the gloves, everything, knowing that I had to pack all of that, I couldn't fit that in a backpack, the free one. So I did have to splurge and pay for a check bag, which was $35 each way. So that was $70, which was the price of my flight.
Yeah.
80, 70, but that's only what, 80, 140 or something. But it was still cheaper than my friends' flights. They paid over $200, and we got there at the same time with one check bag. But some people, they're like, I guess, I don't want to say, but maybe they're too bougie, or they don't want to risk it. My friend, like my best friend, he needs an outlet. He needs to charge his phone. I'm like, nah, you're not getting that on Frontier. We arrived at the same spot, and you flew American, and you want to complain because he said he had an outlet, or maybe he said he didn't have an outlet or something. I'm like, well, for flying on American, you could have been with me on Frontier. We ain't had no outlets, but we got here at the same time.
Right. Just make sure you charge that phone up before you get on that plane.
Get a portable charger.
Just go to sleep.
Right. What you need a phone for?
Look, you gotta. And the thing about it, because like I fly Spirit, Frontier, but I also like you, LaSara, like I'm a Delta member, say so. It just depends on moving to South Florida. Like Delta does not have a hub here, so it's hard to fly in Delta flights.
Ooh,
they're coming though.
They are coming. Spirit just opened up a hub down here in South Florida, and so they've got cheap flights going out of Fort Lauderdale and Miami. And so when I'm looking at things, it's like it's a $40, $50 flight. I'm gonna roll some stuff up and throw it in the backpack and keep it moving. My rule with Spirit and the low cost airlines is that if it's under 3 hours, if it's nonstop, and it's under $100 round trip, most likely I'm going to book that, right? And I think where people get into trouble is like the add-ons. Don't go in there thinking this is Delta. Like, get your seat that they assign you to, sit your behind down, and go to sleep, and wake up and you'll be where you need to be, right? And I think it gets you there. Like, everybody likes to crack the jokes like, hey, about the planes, like you're gonna get there safe. Like they all these planes get inspected. Actually, they fly.
They wouldn't let it fly if you weren't gonna make it.
And so I think that people have to understand, once you fly a low cost airline and figure out how to maneuver, you get money.
Mhm.
Like it's really good. And I'm super excited that Spirit and Frontier have merged because now they're gonna have more direct routes, more planes, and more destinations for the low. So
I wonder
definitely
what the
gonna be
name
Yes.
gonna be. What's the new name gonna be? Is it gonna stay Frontier, Spirit, Tier? I don't know.
here you
Mm.
go. You're gonna leave Spirit
I saw a
alone.
lot of people were hoping that they still keep the animals on the Frontier planes, on the wing.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is really what y'all want to keep out of all things. Yeah, I love those little animals.
Let's not talk about animals. I'm still trying to get over that snake we talked about from the last episode.
Oh yeah, the snake on the plane.
Yeah. And then speaking of Asian Airlines, a plane just crashed this
Yeah, I
past week.
saw 100 and was it
Mm.
123 passengers, 32
Mhm.
132 passengers. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah,
So
these Spirit Airline and Frontier aircrafts, they're the same as anything else. It's just
mhm.
they gut out some more things,
So they
make
can add
room
more
for
seats.
so they can add more seats.
Yeah, and sometimes like if it's like I flew to Houston not too long ago on Spirit, and so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just upgrade to the exit rows like an extra $15. And so I do that so I have some leg room because it's a longer flight, and I'll be fine. It's not bad at all.
Mhm.
I did get the Spirit credit card, so like if I do have like a longer haul, I get half off, so my bags will be half off. So I just use
Okay.
it for that. So it's like it works out pretty good.
Okay.
Mm.
Dope. 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 Listen, so the last thing I want to bring up when to talk about was talking about budget travel, right? We already talked about choosing your destination. We talked about planning. Let's talk about traveling on the off season. When we talk about trying to save money. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on that?
That's a good one. Now, I do like to save money, but I also want to enjoy my time there.
Right. Uh-huh.
Um, I think one of my destinations, now going back like to my last trip, which was in October, Arizona really wasn't my top choice, but it was more feasible for the climate that I wanted, the
Mhm.
cost that I wanted. But I really wanted to go to Colombia actually.
Mhm.
And seeing that the weather there is like cloudy all the time, but like even way worse in October, because it's off season and because like hurricane season is that time. So everything in the tropics and the Caribbean islands is really cheap, but it comes at a cost. You're running into possibly having a hurricane come through on your vacation, cloudy weather. I think I also looked at going to Puerto Rico. Like it was all out of the question. Yes, it's off season, everything is cheaper, but you got to think about how do you want to enjoy your vacation. I was thinking like, how do
Yeah.
I want to enjoy my birthday? Like, yeah, I'm going to be saving money going during the off season to the Caribbean islands or going to South America,
Mhm.
but I just had to pick another destination. So it just depends on what you're looking for. Like in that moment, I really wasn't concerned so much of saving money. It was more so about the experience.
Yeah. Definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah, because I live in South Florida, and so we get similar weather to the tropics, and um, hurricane season is real. And like folks will be like, "Oh, they got this cheap flight to Tulum. It's only $80 round trip," and it's like, hold on, like you don't want to fly to
Mhm.
because it actually last year it happened. Like them folks got stranded at the airport when that hurricane
Yep.
came through, and
Mhm.
everybody's rushing trying to fly out the airport. And they're like, "Nah, like we got cancel all the flights," and
Put the
so
bus out back to y'all resort.
and bunker down, right? And
Right.
so you also have to take that in consideration, especially being out of the country. You have to take infrastructure. I know
Mhm.
when I was in Puerto Rico, they're doing they shut the water off randomly to the whole island.
Oh,
So
Mm.
like one day we woke up and like there was no water when we woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and at 7 o'clock at night when we got back to the room, there still was no water. And so with that being said, it's like we had to kind of figure some things out, right? So you definitely want to make sure that like you are traveling during a good time. And then also
mhm.
like if it is like during hurricane season, do your due diligence. Like, when it gets really, really like bad during hurricane season, it's probably gonna be October, but once you start to get November, it starts to like tail down a little bit. So depending on where you're at in your travel journey, you definitely want to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just gotta outweigh the bad and see is it worth it? Because I did actually do something similar. My mom, she used to live in Hawaii, and I would just randomly check to see how much it cost to fly there. And on average, it was like at least like $600-700 out of North Carolina. And I saw that they had a hurricane. So I just randomly just wanted to know, well, how much are the flights now that, a hurricane just passed through? It's muddy, it's rainy out there. And the flight was like 3 something, maybe like 3:30. So I was like, oh, well, that's a steal right there. And I actually had some miles saved up through Delta, which was only about 30 some thousand miles, equivalent to, the $300. So on a whim, I was like, you know what? Let me go visit my mom in Hawaii. Like, I know the weather just could possibly be bad, even though the hurricane just passed through and it's all muddy and disgusting out there. But when am I ever going to find another $300 flight to Hawaii and a chance to visit my mom while she's living there? And either way, if it's bad weather, at least I get to enjoy some time with family. She gets to show me around and we can make it work. And I ended up having a great time. It was sunny, it was warm out. So you kind of have to know what kind of risk you're taking with going to another location, either during off season or if you know that they just had some inclement weather. Like I just took a risk and was like, well, it's really cheap. Let me just go ahead and go and we'll be okay. And it ended up working out for the better and I got to save $300. So you just got to kind of outweigh and see like the pros and cons of you going during those times when it's weather, like you said, infrastructure. If it's like one of those seasons where they just shut off the water or a high season of anything, you just got to kind of do your research before you decide to try to penny pinch. Like, just is it worth it though to save a couple $100?
And some trips you will have that. Like, is it really worth it? Like, let me like some people. So I want to go to Iceland. That's like one of my places that I want to get to. And I guess the off season. I don't know if the off season will be during the summer, during the spring, whatever. But I want to go during the wintertime, right? Just to go and be in the Blue Lagoon with all the snow around. So
and see the northern lights.
And see the northern lights, right? I want to do that too. I want to get to Finland to see the northern lights. But if I see them in Iceland, that I really want to go to Finland to sleep in the igloo, one of the glass igloos that they have, where you can look up and you can see like the stars, and sometimes see even the northern lights. So, but you just gotta ask yourself, is it worth it, right? Like I'm going to go during the winter time, so I have to be willing to pay wintertime prices. And so. Yeah, so it definitely boils down to doing your research, like you said. I'm one of those persons. Like, as soon as I decide that I'm gonna go somewhere, I start researching. Like, what's the weather like during this month? Watching YouTube videos. I will learn everything. And Joc probably can tell you that I will learn everything about a place from attending YouTube University.
Yes.
From the time we say we go into the time we leave, I'm constantly watching like YouTubes and vlogs.
YouTube let us down though in Egypt.
It did kind of.
It was cold. It was cold.
Really? When did y'all go?
April.
Oh, and it was cold? I don't know much about the climate there.
So it was definitely cold once the sun went down. It was like warm. It was doable while the sun was up. But I think the high might have been like 70.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I would have never known that. That's why, it's important to research.
Yeah, so that's like April's like off season for Egypt.
Okay. Yeah, and it wasn't the thing. Like I think what really messed us up was that yes, they were saying like, hey, like during this time, like it's not the hot season in Egypt, but it's still not freezing. But what it was is that I think we're used to humidity. Like being in North Carolina, it gets humid. Being in South Florida, it gets humid, right? And when we got over there, like that 70 degrees did not feel the same. And then when the sun went down, it was like that 50 degrees felt a little cooler.
And the wind.
Oh yeah, that's just like how it is in the desert, right? At nighttime.
Well, it is the desert, right?
Yeah. Like out in the Southwest here in the US, at nighttime it's like really cold, but during the day it's steaming hot to about almost near 100 degrees. You would never think that it really does get that cold in desert. So I believe you that it happened in Egypt.
Yeah, and I think that's super important. Where it's like we always do the research, but then we also talk to folks who've been there, right?
Yeah.
So just having it's always good to get word of mouth as well on top of the research that you're doing.
Definitely. I'm always DMing random people. For this Brazil trip, I definitely DM'd like 3 strangers. Like, hey, I see you just went on this trip. Amazing post, by the way. Do you mind sharing what company you use for this boat or that? Like, and people will really help because I know it happens to me. Random people will follow me and then hit me up and be like, hey, I see you posted about this location. I'm thinking about going there. Do you mind sharing some tips? So the travel community, I would say for Instagram is amazing. Everyone is there to help each other out, share itineraries, tips, anything helpful. And like I do it all the time because I know people do it to me. So I have no shame in sliding in DMs and asking, hey, how much was this? Hey, what did you use to go on this cruise?
No, definitely, and I think that's like when you travel, you're gonna learn to like really just like get out your comfort zone and meet people and really just like what I'm saying, get out, communicate. What do you feel like that's like for you as far as like being a Black woman and then also doing like solo travel? Because we get a lot of questions from folks saying, hey, like I'm not comfortable traveling by myself. So how do you like build that confidence?
I would tell them to start small. Like a lot of times, like the people that ask me about solo travel, they haven't even done dinner by themselves. And I'm like, well, just start with that. Start small. Just take yourself out to dinner so you can get a feel for what it's like to eat by yourself, eat alone, be within your own company. And then after that, maybe you can take just a little trip to the park or something. Sign up for a random cooking class so you know how to meet strangers or just learning how to, I guess, date yourself really, because that's what you're doing. You're taking yourself out on dates, taking yourself out on these trips. You have to be comfortable with your own company. So I would just let them know to kind of start small. And with the safety aspect, that's now a whole another discussion. But you do have to have people around you or back at home that know your every move because you can't do it all by yourself without having anybody know your location, your itinerary, your plans. Just for security reasons, you do want to share that with either family or friends at home. But first is just starting small, I would say, just learning how to be comfortable being alone. Because once you're on a solo trip, that's it. It's just you out there. If you have enough confidence at that point to maybe reach out to some people that you find on social media or tag along with some strangers that you meet on a tour, by all means. I haven't really gotten to that stage yet. Like when I go on a solo trip, I am really solo, but I've heard other people, they are comfortable with staying at hostels and just all getting together with strangers and going on a group trip. I'm not there yet. I'm going to get there, but and it's funny you mentioned like as a Black woman, like going to some of these countries, I am amazed at some of these other Black women doing that and being so comfortable and so secure and knowing that they are safe, because I am just not at that point where I would feel safe enough to go out with random strangers, because I don't know, I'm a little leery. I'm not as big of a risk taker that people think I am, because you still have to have that conscience in the back of your mind saying like, do you really think it's a good idea to go with this foreign group of strangers who probably never interacted with a Black woman before, out in a different country to a remote little area or a cave somewhere? You still got to think about, you got to be grounded and realistic. Like it's easy to deviate and have a YOLO mindset, like, oh, I'll be okay, or no, YOLO, living my life out on vacation. It's easy to think like that and then get carried away and let all your inhibitions go. But I'm still at that point where I'm very cautious when I'm traveling solo. Very cautious.
Yeah, definitely. I think you bring up a good point. I mean, at the end of the day, right? We all want to make sure that we making safe choices, right?
Yeah.
Especially being a Black woman traveling by yourself. You want to also make you got to be on high alert, right?
Mm-hmm.
And So I really appreciate what you shared as it concerns solo traveling.
Yeah, you got to think, would I do this at home? Would I do this in my
Yeah.
hometown? Why would I do it in a different country? You got to think like that sometimes.
And you got to make sure, look, it's okay to drink, but you need to know your limit.
Yeah.
That's how some people get caught up too.
You
They
can
be
get
on
carried
vacation
away.
and get carried away.
One of my solo trips, well, my first one was my first international one was to Mexico. And I met another fellow solo traveler. I think she was Hispanic and Black, maybe. But she wanted to go out at nighttime. And I'm like, yeah, this is my first solo trip. I don't think I'm comfortable going out during the night yet. My time at night was spent at the resort where I know I'm a little bit more safe. Now, some things can go down at a resort, but I didn't want to take that risk with going with a stranger. Granted, she was also a fellow solo traveler, person of color, but I'm like, I don't know, because, this is also your language. I don't know the language. She can probably pick up on some things that I can't, and just being in a different country for the first time, I didn't want to take that risk. So at nighttime, I did not go out to any of the clubs, to the Cancun strip. I did none of that, but I still had a good time. Maybe next time if I go on another solo trip, I'll be more adapt to going out by myself or linking up with another solo traveler. But being it was my first time, I didn't feel as comfortable. And again, I kind of had to know my place. Everyone else speaks Spanish. I might look like it, but I definitely don't. So I know that I could be a target. Once you hear me speak, you know that I'm American. So you just gotta kind of know yourself and how other people will perceive you.
Most definitely. I tell you, it's like they got radars when they know tourists are in town. Like, all they got to hear is that American accent. Let me tell you,
all they gotta do is look at me. They be like, "Oh, like, who
right?"
you
Like, oh, yeah, and they have this preconceived notion that we coming over with thousands and millions of dollars, and we just gonna buy up everything they try to get us to buy up. So yeah, yeah. So, I guess my last question to you would be, why do you think more Black people should get out and start traveling, especially young professionals?
Yes, there is so much to learn and so much to gain outside of these walls. Like, some locations could be safer than you thought they were, like outside of the US. You never know what else is out there. There are people out there just like us in these different countries. Like, you might meet a group of Black people in Germany. I mean, look at me. It's a way to learn, to gain a new perspective, but also to connect. Like, there's so much to see outside of these walls, outside of this country, and I just need us to get that experience and come back with new insight. And not even us being exposed to a different world or to the world in general, but the people that you meet in these other countries, they're also being exposed to you. For instance, like these Asian countries, a lot of them have never seen a Black person before. I think when people go to China, they're treated like celebrities or get pictures taken of them because they have never seen a Black person before. So we need to get out there and first let them know, like, yeah, we exist and we travel, we're educated. We're here just like you, taking in knowledge, taking in different cultures. So it's all about exposing ourselves, but also knowing that we're exposing other people to us and letting them know, like, hey, we're here.
That's dope. That's dope. It's just something that's like magical when Black folks travel. It's just a different type of energy, a different type of vibe. And I know, like, even like Matt, I remember when we were traveling to Egypt, and we kept hearing these people keep saying the same statement, and they would say, black face, white heart.
Right. So wait a minute now. What you trying to say?
And I heard it for like the third time, and I'm like, I was like, okay, like I don't think they're trying to be disrespectful, but I'm starting to feel some type of way. So like I had to ask the guy in the store, like, what do you mean by that? And he says, when people who don't look like, he's like, when white people travel from your country, 9 times out of 10, like they're very transactional. They can be standoffish to us. We're just here to do a
And
service.
rude.
And he said rude. And he was like, a lot of times when we come, you know what I'm saying, in contact with black people from America, like you guys are super kind, you're willing to interact. And you know what I'm saying, that's why we say, you know, black face, white heart, because your heart is pure, even though, you know what I'm saying, like you are a black person from America. And so it was just like super interesting to even have him say that to me, because I felt some type of way at first because culturally I didn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah, definitely. So we need to get out here, y'all. And I love seeing how social media has kind of shifted that narrative that we do travel and we do have the means and the resources. And that's why I wanted to really put my all into Grants for Stamps, because like Matt said earlier, that's where it starts. It starts early, like getting these college students to be exposed to different culture and different lands, and letting their peers know, or their classmates or teachers, or proving somebody wrong in their life that I can do this. Like I can go to a different country and come back. So just making a stance and just making a mark on the world. Literally.
I love it.
We gotta get them babies some stamps, y'all.
Right. Go ahead and visit the website. We're gonna make sure she tell us again the website and how you can find Grants for Stamps, and go and donate. Even if you can't afford to sponsor a whole passport, donate something, right? Something goes a long way, right? I always say little plus little equals much. So do what you can, right? And it will aid in the effort of helping these students get passports.
Yes, check us out on grantsforstamps.org or Grants for Stamps on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Feel free to reach out to Joc or Matt, and they'll get you situated.
Awesome.
Well, it's about that time, Matt. We got the wondering tip of the week. What's going on?
Listen, since we're here talking about budget travel, right? I think it's only right that we drop this one. We kind of talked about it a little earlier. Perhaps you don't use PayPal, Pay in 4, or some of these others that allow you to pay in 4. There's this website, there's this app that you can download on your iPhone or your Android. It's called Airfordable, which it allows you to make installments on your flight. So you'll put in where you're flying from and where you want to go, and then they'll show you, and you put in your dates, and they'll show you how much the flight costs, right? And then they'll show you how much you will have to put down that day to book the flight, and then how much your installments will be moving forward. So if you're looking for a budget-friendly option, check out Airfordable. And that's our wandering tip of the week.
Yeah, because them gas prices are going up. So jet fuel is going up and them flights are going up.
Yeah, man. So, Joc, it's been a pleasure for episode 3. LaSara, it's been a pleasure having you. We are grateful that you took the time out. I know it's late over there. It's 11 o'clock. But we're thankful that you took time out of your schedule. You took time away from packing and decided to be on the podcast today. So welcome to the Travel Hour fam. Welcome. Thank you for being our first invited guest. We also want to shout out to the fam because LaSara, I did say it earlier, but she is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So shout out to all the AKs out there. Shout out to the first fam. And we just thank you for having us. How can they find you on social media, LaSara?
Yeah, again, thank you for having me. You guys can find me on Instagram, LaSara Destiny. That's LaSara Destiny.
LaSara Destiny. All right, y'all look her up. Follow Grants for Stamps. Donate. sponsor.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir.
We're serious about that, right?
Very serious. This is a serious matter.
It's a movement. It's not just a podcast, y'all. We told y'all we were gonna change some lives.
And listen, we are in the business like helping one another, right? I've always grown up learning that hearing, working together works. And so that's literally what we plan to do on this podcast. It's like, as we are, doing our thing, we also want to help and bring people on and help doing whatever initiatives that they have. So please, ma'am, please, sir, please, organization, look up Grant for Stamps and consider sponsoring a passport. Joc, how can they find the Travel Hour on social media? How can they find you?
Yes. So you can follow your boy on Instagram, _Zixter with 2 G's. And then also you can follow us on all platforms, the E Travel Hour. So check us out on Instagram. We're on Spotify, we're on Google, and we're also on Apple Podcasts. So you can find us, download us, and make sure that you listen to the podcast, whether you're driving to work, going to work out, or just can't sleep at night. Go ahead and give us a listen. I'm pretty sure you're gonna be dropping gems that you can take something from it. But this has truly been a pleasure. It's always good to connect with the Shaw U fam. And so I appreciate y'all, and it's all love, Travel Hour family.
2 claps for you. 2 claps for you. You. Listen, you can find me on Instagram at according to TO, not the number, MP. And I would love to connect with y'all. I follow back. And so, look us up on Instagram, look us up on YouTube, and be on the lookout for episode 4. Y'all, can we believe that this is the 3rd episode? I remember when this was just an idea.
Used to pray for times like this.
Right. And now we're here. And so by the time you all hear this episode, it will drop on the 31st. We'll be geared 2 days away from going on vacation, flying over to Greece. And so y'all be on the lookout for that Greece vlog. I feel like that Greece vlog gonna be fire. Not vlog. Podcast is gonna be fire. Yeah. Follow us on social media so you
I'm gonna be tuned in.
Definitely.
And likewise, LaSara, I'm gonna be tuned in for Rio. So safe travel.
Right. Safe travel.
Thank you. Yeah.
Definitely, so we looking forward to it.
Definitely. Safe travels. And that's it. That's another episode of the Travel Hour. And like we say every week, keep your head up and let's see the world. All right, Joc. All right, LaSara. We signing off.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.